So you are good.
Wonderful. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Invert Podcast. Today with me, I am Leah, obviously from Tarantula. We have Dorothy and Finn from Somerset Spiders,
No, I'm
or
from
Nat,
Somerset
Nat from
Spider.
Somerset. I see. I'm terrible. I told you.
Leah! Oh my goodness. Finn, that's it.
Um,
You can have my YouTube. You can have it.
all right, all
That's
right.
it.
It's all over. It's all over. But actually, today our special guest is going to be Amy from Fang Hub Tarantulas. Welcome, Amy.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Wonderful. We're so happy to have you for sure.
Thank you.
I believe Nat was going to go ahead and start us off with our first question.
Oh, it's a good one. So, hi Amy, thanks for joining the podcast.
Thank you for inviting me.
No, it's brilliant. You've got to thank Dorothy, really. I got to point to the other side because she's I think.
She's up there for me that way.
Yeah. So, I suppose let's just start at the very beginning. What got you into selling tarantulas?
For selling, actually, it was just like a really natural progression for us because we had started breeding, and of course, what are you going to do with, when you have 5 sacks of 100 tarantulas, you get rid of them. we did, and we still do a lot of like giving away what we breed, and it was, like I said, it was just a really natural progression to end up as a business, basically.
Mm-hmm. And so, think about. Obviously, that sounds like really easy. Well, you've just sort of progressed into it. So, what would you say to anyone who's looking to make a quick buck breeding and selling tarantulas?
I would say don't hold your breath, and you're probably in for a little bit of a rude awakening. It's really hard to break into that community kind of on that level. People have to learn to trust you with their money and with animals that they actually really love and care about. So I think a big thing for me was we started the tarantula community, which is a Facebook group that it's the biggest tarantula Facebook group there is. And just really like being out there and constantly and consistently talking to people and showing our products and things like that. And the tarantula market is actually really touchy and almost volatile. Sometimes it's just booming and everything is great, and then sometimes I'm like, where are all my customers this week? And you'll find that it's kind of the same flow for a lot of the other vendors as well.
Yeah. So, so really, what you're saying is it's not easy.
It's not easy at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Yeah. And I know we'll get into some of the not so easy stuff a little bit later.
Yeah. No, most definitely. Brilliant.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for that advice. So there's kind of a follow-up question for that that I had, which is, what would you say to somebody who is serious about breeding and getting into breeding tarantulas and selling them? Like, what advice would you have for somebody who is just kind of starting out with that?
And back to the same thing, basically, and I have been asked for this advice many times. My advice is to get out into the community. If you're not known by the community and they have no trust in you, it is going to be 100 times harder than someone who already has a lot of friends and has shown that, they are visible and out there, basically.
Yeah. So would you say that, so the way that I would think about it is I would probably want to be supplying suppliers to start with. So you build up that reputation of, so if you breed something, you don't try and, you can sell it on Facebook forums. There's lots of very good breeders out there that do that. But actually building that reputation by communicating with suppliers.
Yes. We actually didn't really start with suppliers. We started with the general public because that's who I knew at the time. when we first started breeding everything. So, but that is another thing that I do suggest to people now. There seems to be quite a few more vendors now than there was when I first started breeding. So reaching out to those vendors, I actually have a list that I copy and paste for people who are breeding right now. Hey, reach out to these people, which are all vendors, and see if they need any of those. And I always try to give people kind of an idea of price wise what they're looking for with bulk orders.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, because I think there's a big myth that if you buy a spider for £80, you're going to sell that sling for £80 to the vendor. But obviously, we know that's a lot different. Yeah.
Right.
Thank you.
Dorothy, did you want to go ahead and ask Amy a question?
All right. Amy, what is your absolute favorite part about being in the tarantula business?
It's two things. And I really thought about this a lot. And I really honestly could not figure out what order to put it in. It is the tarantulas and the customers. I sincerely enjoy working with customers. This is what I do for a living. So I'm available every moment I'm awake, basically, and sometimes even when I'm not. But being able to speak to my customers and get really in depth with them about where they're at in their hobby and their keeping and their experience, and being able to recommend really good things. My absolute favorite thing is working with brand new hobbyists, especially if this is like their first, that they have like the most passion, and it's just it's a lot of fun for me and gives me purpose in what I'm doing. It just makes it for me. But of course, I love my tarantulas. I spend typically about 50 hours a week working with the tarantulas themselves, and it's just my place. It's my zen. So.
That's kind of interesting that you said that one of your favorite parts is helping new hobbyists, because I see a lot of it in the hobby where people are almost annoyed or irritated that people, the new keepers who ask questions and stuff. But I ask tons of questions. Like, even though, I'm years into my keeping, I still ask questions because there's always more to learn. And I think that some people are very closed-minded. Like, they think that I've got my tarantula has survived, so obviously I'm doing everything right. And I love that you said that you like to help new keepers. I love helping new people and answering their questions because they get so excited, and like I'm still excited about it all. Like, I'm like, yes, I love this energy. So I love that.
Yep, it's the exact same for me. It's just again, it gives me purpose and it gives me drive, just to see new people coming into the hobby and doing my best to give them a really, really good, if not perfect, experience for their first order, as well as, like I said, about our group, the tarantula community on Facebook. That group was created with the intent of giving brand new hobbyists a good experience, because when I was a brand new hobbyist, I did not have a good experience, just with people who were not kind about my questions and stuff like that. So as I learned, I really wanted to do it differently than what I came into.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
Absolutely. I've got to agree with that as well. And it's about, if you can make that experience good for someone getting their first spider, you're going to have them in the hobby. And within the tarantula community, I know within the UK, I've made some brilliant friends through that, and I think that's also another really nice aspect of it. And then you get that repeat custom for yourself, Amy. People will come back to you because you've supported them. So yeah, I think that's fantastic.
I think that really sets vendors apart, especially if they are taking that extra step to really help beginners and kind of provide that more feedback and like good advice. And as you said, like, I love that we're always learning. So I think that's really important in our communities that we remember that, nothing is always set in stone. Nothing's, you know what I mean? Like it's not chiseled in the
Right.
pyramids in Egypt,
Right.
So that's cool. That's really, really cool. That sets you apart.
Thank you.
Ben, are you ready? Would you like to ask a question?
Absolutely. So my question I'll ask is, what's your favorite part about? Oh, hang on. What was your first tarantula? Sorry.
My first tarantula was an adult female GBB, and there's actually a whole story behind it. I was arachnophobic, like truly arachnophobic. I have a lot of stories about it. Not something I prefer to look back on. Um, my youngest son, he kept exotics from the time he was like 6 or 7. He was bringing stuff home, and the one rule always was no spiders. I don't care if you bring a crocodile home. I don't want any spiders though. And one day at one of our local pet shops, we were in there looking at some stuff, and I turned around and this GBB was sitting on a shelf. And I looked at her and I was like, wow, that's really beautiful. Not something I ever thought I would think about a spider. And I looked at Quinn and I was like, I want it. I want to get over this. And it was history after that. I can't even say how much this has changed my life from being afraid of them to where I am now. I've not only have I been camping, which I never did in my whole life, because of spiders, but we've gone on all the way down the coast, kayaking and camping for 11 days. So not an experience I would have ever had I not taken this journey.
That's a brilliant impact, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Absolutely.
I mean, even down to the little things where I no longer have to walk in a room and look at, all the corners and make sure there's no spiders. And it's just when I started realizing how much things were changing for me, I was like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
That's amazing. There's really something to be said about arachnophobes and how we kind of overcome our fears of tarantulas and spiders, and then we're like the biggest hobbyists,
Right. And it probably took me over 2 years after I started keeping tarantulas to be okay with like true spiders and house spiders. But I'm completely comfortable with everything now, and it's again, it's just changed my life so much for the better.
Yeah, I have to be with you on that. With that, it takes a little bit longer to get over the true spider thing.
Exactly.
They move they move differently.
Yes.
They're not as purposeful in their
Yes.
movement as
Yes.
such. Whereas a tarantula is a little bit more, purposeful.
Exactly.
Because that was another thing for me as well. It was the moment I got my first tarantula, I was like, oh, I'm a lot less afraid than I thought I'd be, because I was, again, also a big arachnophobe.
It's so common. It is very, very common. I meet so many people, and a lot of people take the road where it's jumping spiders first and then they move into tarantulas. And I would have never done that because I was very afraid of even jumping spiders. So it's crazy. It's just really crazy and inspiring, I hope, to people who have to deal with that.
Yeah, I see the Beth's Tiny Critters. You sold her her first GBB, and yeah, you helped her get over arachnophobia, which is pretty cool.
All right, I guess I'm up, huh?
You are.
So I had a question for you about the breeding community. Do you feel that it is, especially here in the States, since that's where you have your experience, but do you feel that the breeding community is very competitive, or are they a lot more collaborative?
So it's really a toss-up. I would say in my experience specifically, it's really collaborative. I really enjoy working with all the other vendors, but I do see some bickering back and forth. But there's always going to be those people who just can't get along with each other because their personalities are a little bit different and just not something this person enjoys about that person or whatever the case is. But overall, I would say more collaborative than anything. um, I have quite a few vendors who buy wholesale from me when I breed stuff, and we all share mails. And I do. That's another thing that I really enjoy about what we're doing, is like having that camaraderie with the rest of the vendors.
That's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that because it does seem kind of competitive.
It
But
is very competitive.
I believe it. But I love to hear that, sharing males and that thing. Like I have sometimes when I have mature males, I'm looking for girlfriends for them. It's just hard because again, I'm not a breeder, so I'm not super well known in that community. So I think that um, it's hard to trust somebody like that. So I
Yeah,
understand. That's cool. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, I sort of following on from that as well. I suppose it could be very tricky at times when
Mm.
maybe there's other vendors that may be undercutting other people by $10
Yeah.
or whoever. So do you find that sometimes there's a little bit of friction there, or do you
Yeah.
feel that actually like your quality of your work speaks for itself?
I think that kind of every vendor has their base sort of, and people really like this person's prices. People really like this person's customer service. People really like that this person is really close to them, um, and I think that even though we do sometimes, I wouldn't say squabble, but we know that we're looking at each other's prices, and there is some. Um, Changing of prices in that respect. Uh, but I think for the most part, most of us like to keep our prices down. Um, I We don't like everything that we sell is not necessarily bred by us.
Yeah.
A lot of the vendors also buy wholesale, including us. So we've paid for those spiders as well. So there's we have to still make our money. Um, and it's more a question of like what is our time worth, basically.
Yeah.
And again, I think it's pretty collaborative. I've actually worked with another vendor who we got in the same pretty rare species, and we collaborated on a price, which I think is really good for the community. Then
Definitely.
our customers can go to either place and have the experience they're looking for without getting gouged by one of the vendors. So
Yeah, most definitely. I think also it's maybe it's affected slightly differently for you in the States than it is for us in the UK. So your prices are quite high for some species of tarantula, whereas in UK and Europe they're a lot lower.
oh,
So
we
then
know.
yes, but then if you have someone that's selling $20 less than you, people are going to be probably going to them.
Right.
And I know that there's been some issues in the last couple of years in the States with you guys. I know Richard from the Tarantula Collective covered it, but there was a spider seller that ended up going out of business, taking loads of orders because they were a lot cheaper than a lot of people, and maybe they just struggled to fulfill that. I know that there has been a change because I listened to Richard's podcast and they were taken over by a new owner and things like that. So, but that's the risk as well, isn't it? It's about supply and
Yes.
demand
Yes.
and getting it out there.
hmm and just like I was saying, how kind of volatile or not stable the market is. We can one month sell a ton of one species, say Caribbean versicolor. So then we buy a bunch more, and then we don't sell any for a long time. We got all these big versicolor.
Yeah.
So that's just, yeah. And it could be because another vendor has a really low price on them, or whatever the case is. It's just there's so much to consider when you're talking about pricing. It's yeah.
Yeah, and I think as well with the Caribbean versicolor, they're a lot more fragile than
Yes.
a lot of the others. There's slings, so then you might have a whole lot of people buying loads of them, and then Facebook is coming up with people saying that their C Versi has passed away, and then you might have people being put off from buying them for a
Right.
period of time. So,
Right.
but
Yeah,
but
it's
at
kind
least,
of a roller coaster.
yeah, yeah, at least you get to have loads of verses in your
Yeah, I enjoy them.
Facebook. Yeah. I have a follow-on question, sort of thinking about that, about your stock rooms and how you get everything sort of done. What's a typical day for you, Amy? What is a day in the life of Amy from Fang Hub?
So Monday is usually the day I touch base with all my customers. That it's really different every day, to be honest. Like I said, Monday is the day I touch base with all my customers that I'll be shipping that week, just making sure, checking weather and making sure that if they need to go to a hub, that I'm communicating that with the customer. All that kind of stuff, just ensuring, letting them know that we are shipping. This is your day, and then Tuesday and Wednesday. First thing when I wake up in the morning, I start getting together all of my packing supplies, picking all the orders, and typically that takes at least 8 hours for me,
Wow.
getting everything packed and then to FedEx or having a FedEx pickup. Uh, that's Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Thursday, Friday, and Saturday I'm feeding. So and it's pretty much all day, but I do take a lot of breaks. My granddaughter's here, so I'm always spending time with her. Uh, and that's really about it. And then Sunday's my day off.
Yeah. I suppose that's the joys of owning your own business as well, is
Mhm.
that you get to sort of do it in your own time and
Absolutely, yes. It's amazing. I went from working 65 hours a week as a manager, um, to doing things how I wanted to do it. It was pretty amazing. This community has been amazing to me.
brilliant. Oh, sounds like an intense, like 5-6 days of work, but it sounds like it's
It's
rewarding as well.
enjoyable.
So
It is.
yeah,
It's very rewarding. It's much more fulfilling than anything I've done before.
cool. Thanks.
All right, Dorothy, did you have another question for Amy?
Yeah. So what species would you say would be the easiest and the hardest to breed? Like, conditions, all that other stuff.
The easiest by far, for some reason, is any trapdoor. That goes for Celadonia, Idiothelia. I don't know why. I suspect that they manage the trap itself for humidity or whatever the case is. And both species are extremely easy to actual for the actual breeding. Typically, they go right at it, and it's over. The female actually helps. Um, and I would say for me, the hardest has been anything that eats the male.
Yeah,
I'm getting faster. Quinn is a lot faster than me, but I do a lot of the breeding on my own. Um, but I would say I also probably like it. I always get caught by surprise. It seems like avicularia are often um, male eaters, and then just getting the right humidity and stuff for their sacks has at times been a challenge for me. So I'm working on that now. I got a couple going, so we'll see how that.
Yay.
I've
What you
heard
got
that.
going right now? Oops,
Sorry.
sorry. Yeah.
No, you carry on. Sorry.
I was just going to ask, what do you have sitting on sacks right now?
An avicularia species Columbia, which is it's a variant of purpurea. They're gorgeous. I think they're better than purpurea.
Awesome.
So we got our fingers crossed for that one. So.
Would you say that there is a most difficult species to breed?
Most difficult?
Yes.
I think the difficulty for us is sometimes finding males for the more rare stuff.
Mm,
I wouldn't say any particular species is, well, I mean, stuff like Solaris, where it's really, really hard to get a sack from them. Being able to run down all that information on exactly where they're from, their weather and humidity and all the things that you need to ensure success. and which still doesn't ensure success. Stuff like that. So I would just say anything that I have a hard time getting that information for would be the hardest for me.
I've heard that GBBs are incredibly difficult because they take forever.
They take forever, and they are notorious man eaters. Notorious. Like you
I
can sit
believe
there
it.
for 8 hours with them, and then they look like they're gonna pair, and she'll just snatch them up. They're horrible. They're horrible. I actually said I would never breed them again. It's not, to me, my time is worth more than that. Like to be able to sit there for that long watching them. I have ADHD, so it's hard for me to, concentrate on any one thing for a really, really long time. So, and that's kind of out of my league.
All right, Finn. Oh, I'm
Well,
sorry,
actually,
Nat.
I was just going to say that I think one of the things that worry me is the man eating side of things, and I just think that can put a lot of people off. And but I sort of wanted to ask a little follow on question, if that's all right, Finn. So there is two schools of thought, isn't there, with breeding? Some people say, well, the males they're there to be eaten by the females. It's part of nature. Whereas others, and this is the side that I sort of go to, is about trying to preserve that male so he can go and be paired with other females, because in the wild they would have maybe a bit more space than we're giving them in their bra plast tubs or wherever to get away. Where do you sort of sit there on the
I
fence?
definitely always try to preserve my males. I do like to send them out for breeding loans or even, sell them so they can continue. But I don't, I hate for them to get eaten, but I understand that it's nature. But I do have a couple of really good suggestions to try to help people when it comes to that. We always pair in a really, really large bin. We put both of their enclosures in there with stuff in between so that the male actually does have the opportunity. And we always allow the males to learn that space before going into the female's enclosure.
Okay.
And then our other handy dandy trick is we use a paintbrush that's about 3 inches wide instead of, I know a lot of people use spatulas, stuff like that. And I always see, legs get ripped off from the spatula. Somebody gets hurt. One of the tarantulas, of course, hopefully not a person. But the paintbrush, typically the female always thinks it's the male and will just grab it and start biting it. So.
Brilliant. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Finn, I think you had something.
Well, I was just going to ask, so obviously we get new species in the hobby all the time. What's your favorite species that has kind of come into the hobby in recent years? Anything kind of new that you've grown to really like?
I really love the Psalmopoeus species black orchid. They're absolutely beautiful. We didn't see enough of them, and I hope that we'll get more, because I'm afraid that we're gonna go through all the males before the females ever mature. The good thing about Psalmopoeus is that the females mature actually pretty small. They're able to breed. Most tarantulas about 3/4 of full size. They're able to breed. With Psalmopoeus, for whatever reason, their spermatheca look, pretty much close to mature, just a little bit over half of their full adult size. So hopefully that works out for the hobby. I hope.
That is definitely a species I have been keeping an eye out for because it's one that I don't have and they're really hard to find.
Yes.
But they are gorgeous. I mean, just phenomenal.
I think they've only come in one time. 2 different importers brought them in, as far as I know, and we have not seen them again. And a lot of people did lose them. I don't think the care, we didn't know the care for them. So.
Is that pretty common for a new species that we kind of have to relearn care for them and trial and error, I guess?
Yes, absolutely. And then, you'll see a lot of flurry between the keepers. Oh, I've been keeping it really moist, and it's doing really well, eating really well. So usually it will get it straight eventually. I don't know a lot of people who are like, oh, I'm keeping these secrets for myself. I think most of the hobby is more concerned about the animals themselves. So
I'm biased because Samos I have two favorite species. It's Samos and Pokies all day, every day. So I'm always keeping an eye on it. Like I totally, I feel you. I'm trying to get my hands on one of those too, but they're so, elusive in the hobby. I mean, it's funny because they're spiders, so of course they're elusive, but they're really hard to get your hands on. So if you ever have some of those, Amy,
okay,
let me know.
Let us know. Yeah.
Okay, I got
Dorothy likes the arboreals. That's cool.
I love arboreals. That's my Pokies are my number one as well.
Yes, I love the spicy arboreals all day. Like they're my favorite.
Yeah, they're pussycats. Really, they are my favorite of the Pokies. I really like the red slate, which is the Rufilata. It's just like the greens on it, and I don't understand why it's called a red slate. Well, I do because of the red hairs around it, but the green is more like, wow, it's amazing. Sorry, shut up.
No, that's
No.
There's so few green tarantulas, and that's I get it. Green is cool.
Yes.
Yeah, and you get that with the Samopaeus cambridgei as well. Like the green on the carapace is just
they're so beautiful. They're so underrated.
They really are.
Yeah, I agree. That and tappies. I think tappies are kind of underrated too.
Just talking about that, I just received a gift from a friend. My first sling ever was Tapanicaneus violaceus, and she passed away probably about 2 or 3 years ago, and I've been looking for one ever since. I got my hands on slings before, but I wanted another nice, beautiful female, and someone just sent me that as a gift. So as one of the best gifts I've ever received.
Beth's Tiny Critters says that her favorites are the GBB, the Pokies, and a Versicolor, because she's a sucker for all those pretty colors. I think we all are, Beth. I really do. That's really cool. So Nat, did you have another question?
Yeah. So we were talking in the virtual green room earlier, and I was saying that I've got a C. elegans, and then I realized, I just remembered, I was like, Tarantula Cat put a video up just the other day because she'd got the dwarf tarantulas. So
yeah, she had
a brilliant haul, and I think they were from you, Amy, as well.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my question is really, so it's about YouTube, and it's about influencers. Do you find that when, say, Richard from the Tarantula Collective or Tom Moran or Tarantula Cat maybe post a video up that they let's say the C. elegans, do your sales of that specific species like skyrocket?
So you're gonna laugh at this, and I'm sure that it has a lot to do with the fact that the video was specifically about me. But I sold out of a lot of elegans yesterday. She just put that video up yesterday, and last night I was like, "Are you kidding me?" So, but I've never really noticed that, well, actually, I take that back, because the last time she did one on Pulchra, I had and it had nothing to do with me. I had quite an uptick in Pulchra sales. So yes.
Yeah.
I actually don't follow any of the other YouTubes. Kat is actually a very dear friend of mine. So I follow her YouTube. So I wouldn't know about other YouTubers.
Yeah. No,
well, I would agree. I think I agree with you on that, Amy, because I know I saw that she had an Eresis walkenari and, the velvet spider. And when I saw it, I was like, oh my God, I have to get one of these. And this was before I was doing YouTube and before, I was still fairly new in the hobby. And so, yeah, like Tarantula Cat is very influential, I think, in the community for sure. And the Homeoma chilense right now is Fear Not Tarantulas released them, and of course, they went like hotcakes.
Yep.
And I do remember the Tarantula Collective of Richard, saying if you ever see them, you better scoop them up because they're awesome and they rarely come around.
Yep.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
No problem.
it definitely came across in Kat's video as well that you two have got a very good friendship. Especially seeing as you're like chucking her free spiders.
Right.
I'm looking.
She actually
I'm
paid
looking.
for that order. That was the first order I think that she did from me that she paid for. I appreciate the fact that she features me on her channel because it definitely does a lot of good for my business. So I have no issues. Like, hey, what do you want? I got you. She put in the order and I was like, wait. So
I could just envisage you like messaging her going, "Do you want your money back?"
what are you doing?
I have that sometimes with friends. They're like, what do you mean you're ordering it from me? I would have given it to you. And it's like, no. Let's do it properly. But just the C. elegans, though, I'm just gushing over it at the moment. They're just so beautiful.
They really are.
Yeah, I didn't realize how metallic they were.
Oh, mm-hmm.
The little part on their abdomen too is just it gets me. It kills me every time.
That is the species that is known for that little heart. But let me tell you, there are a bunch of them, like the Bonatina minax, the ori that I sent her. There's like, and I'm still at times getting in species that I've never kept, even though we had a really huge collection at one time. We had our likes and dislikes, so we kept a lot of arboreal. And owning the business has forced me to keep things that I would have never wanted to keep, or thought to keep. And I've been surprised many times over where I'm like, I love this. So,
interesting question that I just kind of thought of is there a species of tarantula that you just cannot seem to get rid of? Or maybe they just don't sell quite as great because maybe they have a bad reputation or just...
that would be really hard to go all the way down to species, but fossorial tarantulas, like even the beautiful stuff, just does not sell well. Like the Keelbrachys species electric blue, they're gorgeous, they're beautiful, but people want to see their tarantulas. And there are those keepers, of course, that are like, hey, I love my fossorials. But I just think a lot of people want to see those pretty colors and see their tarantulas out. So I guess it would just be fossorials for the most part that are slower to sell than anything else. But I often give them as freebies because I think people are like, oh, a fossorial, I don't want a fossorial, I'll never have a fossorial. So when I give them as species, often people are like, I really love this tarantula. When you do get to see them, of course, it's a treat, and seeing them every once in a while with their little legs poking out. So it's, giving people those new experiences is really important as well. So
I agree. I have a pretty deep appreciation for the fossorials. I have a Keelbrachys cane Krishan, and I rarely see her, but when I do, it's a treat. Right. Absolutely.
Yes.
They're a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had to downsize my collection a while ago, but one of my favorites was my Selena Cosmea Crassipes, which is a fossorial from Australia, and it was just beautiful. And any chance I saw her come out, it was just the best.
And then
you have to experience it to understand that. So
Shady Thing says that weirdos, I love my fossorial.
I agree.
I feel
Me
like
too.
I'm
I do.
guilty of being, no, I don't want a fossorial. I don't want one of those. But then I got some Poecilotheria vittatas, which were my number one pokey that I wanted, and I also got a P. Victorii, which was also on a wish list. And the person who was sending them to me, she was like, hey, I have some Stratogyres Darlingi, and she was like, I'll throw one of those in for free. And I was like, I mean, free, okay, sure, I'll try it.
Fine.
But now I'm like, oh wait, this is actually a super dope tarantula, and I'm hoping it's a female because I really want to see the horn. But I mean, it's like less than half an inch right now, but it's a really cool species, and I definitely would not have picked it myself per se. But
Right.
now that I have it, I'm like, I love you. You're my favorite.
So
They're all my
darling,
favorite though.
the darling eye, actually both the male and female do have the horn. It's the Marshalli that only the males only get the little
Oh.
button. So you're gonna see the
Okay.
horn either way.
Nice. Yay. Okay, that makes me more excited. Thanks. Because I'm super new. I mean, I spicy arboreals all the way, you know, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with this.
I've got to say, I've got my darlingy, and they're fascinating because they're always busy. They're always doing something.
Mhm.
I did check on the other day, and I'm like, oh, I gave you such a nice enclosure, and you've just remodeled it overnight. Brilliant.
Yep.
Mhm.
But it was looking at me like it looked quite happy. Like, look what I've done. I think my second tarantula, it was the Java Fury, and it was lovely. And to have a fossorial, I was drawn to fossorials because I was like, that sounds really interesting. A bit like Shady, who says like she loves fossorials. There's just something about something that lives in a hole that's going to come out maybe once every now and again, or you have to get up in the middle of the night to see it. There's just something really nice about that.
Yeah.
I like,
Yeah.
but
I agree.
Well, that, and I mean, the way that they web up their tunnels is just fascinating for me. Again, with my Killibrocky's King Krishan, she gave me a phantom sac. I have never paired her. But you know, there was this egg sac, and I'm going, wow, okay, I guess you're mature now.
Right. That's how I find out occasionally that they're mature too. I get a fake egg sac. Like,
Hmm. Yeah, those phantom sacs.
Yeah.
Finn, did you have another question?
I just wanted to say, when it comes to the Thesaurus as well, the first time when I first got my Selena Cosmea Crassibes, I popped her in the enclosure, and it was all, I'd made it as nice as possible, and within about a week, it was just covered in heavy web, and I just, that's when I fell in love. I was, wow.
Yep.
Very cool. Oh,
so-
go ahead, Nat.
here's a breeding question for you, Amy. No pressure. We talk a lot about DLS. So you know when your spider's ready because it's a certain size. Now, obviously, sometimes it's quite hard to figure out whether it's the right size. I know you can take the molt out, but then and doing that kind of thing. Is there anything else that people can look out for when they would know that their tarantula, or any tips or tricks that you've learned that they would know that their tarantula may be ready? Because we know in the hobby that they don't have to be like that full size that's sort of like advertised on the tin to be ready for breeding. Is there anything that people can look out for, or?
I wouldn't say specifically visually as adult, like for females.
Mhm.
It's a lot of times if I'm not sure, I'll put them together and see who's tapping.
Yeah.
That's and if there's no, if I think that they probably let go of some of those pheromones once they're mature enough to breed, so the males will pick up on that and start the tapping. But it's a funny thing because I've also seen people accidentally put two males together and they still tap. So it's it's really hard to say. I don't think visually, besides size, that there's much you can do if you don't have that molt.
Yeah. There has I've spoken to a couple of people in the past about it, and someone said about the darkening of the furrow on a female. So if it gets darker, but then I suppose you need to be confident to pick it up and have a look. And also, I haven't even noticed this yet, so I haven't got to that point. So I was just
honestly, I'm sorry.
No. I was just going to say,
I never noticed that or heard
yeah.
that, so I'm going to start watching for that now.
Yeah. It was a breeder in the UK, because I was asking them about it, just because he was sending me his spider list, and he was just like, "Oh yeah, no, have a little look. It should get darker in color." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
On
So
the exterior, on the
yeah, on the
outside?
exterior, yeah, yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna
So
take a
I think it's quite easy to maybe view if you've got a pokey, um, but maybe not so easy to view if you've got fossorial. So there's going to be those different kinds of
Right.
things. Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question for you, Amy. This is more of like personal opinion. But I see a lot of things and comments on, I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. I'm in the Tarantula community Facebook group, of course. But one thing that I've noticed is a lot of people, whenever they'll post ventral pictures or ventral shots, everyone will be like, wait for a molt, wait for a molt, wait for a molt. And I mean, like you said, pokies are really easy to ventral. Like for me, like I'm like, oh, that screams male, And I guess my question is what is your thought process on like the ventral shots versus molt sexing, like your expertise on that?
So I am not an expert at ventral sexing specifically, but I do believe in ventral sexing. I think that it's just as accurate as molt sexing, depending on the person doing the sexing. I know people who have put many, many years into studying, ventral shots. They have literally hundreds of male and female of the same species ventral shots, and are at. I have 3 people that I look to. I'm still learning, so I'll make my guess and then send it off to those 3 people, and at least 2 of those people have been 100% for me. So
That's awesome. What species would you say that is the easiest for you to ventral sex?
Caribbean versicolor.
Really?
The females are really, really, really obvious. Yeah.
Cool.
They're very obvious. They actually look like they have lips on the outside. So
I was just about to ask, what are you looking for? So you're looking for that.
Yep, their furrow is very obvious.
That's really interesting. I'm
That is
gonna
not what I
go
thought you were
and
gonna say.
look at my Caribbean versicolor in a minute after this podcast.
I bet you'll be able to tell too, depending on how big it is, of course.
It's quite big. If I get stuck, I'll send you a picture.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I have one final question for you, Amy, and then we'll go ahead and do our plugs and all that fun stuff.
Shameful promotion.
Our shtick. Yeah. But my question for you is, at any given time, how many specimens of tarantulas do you have at just,
We have had as many as about 3,000. Right now we're kind of low on inventory, waiting to make a pretty big purchase. So we'll probably at the end of next month we'll have quite a few more. But I'd say normally on when we have normal inventory and things are going normally, right around 2,000 is probably pretty normal. I only have, and I know it sounds big, but I've had a much bigger personal collection. I only have about 200 in my personal collection right now, which at some point I'll keep, but I've been kind of trying to concentrate on breeding pairs. So I haven't been kind of willy-nilly about it. I've been pretty focused on what I want to keep and what I want to breed. And so.
Wonderful.
Brilliant.
All right. Thanks for being here and answering all of our questions. We really appreciate you. Is there anything, Dorothy, is there anything that you want to plug and just kind of promote right now?
Just buy spiders from Amy. That's it.
All right. Nat, how about you? Anything new coming up?
Anything new coming up? I've got lots of stuff coming up, but so I'm going to be at the Bristol Invert show on the 30th of July, so it'd be nice to see some people there. I've got some little goodies to give to people that are coming, which is exciting. I really want to show everyone, but you shouldn't.
Keep it a surprise.
Yeah, keep it a surprise. But yeah, just as normal, I drop videos every other Friday. Little bits of fun with a voiceover me, and drop on over. But also subscribe to this podcast channel, guys.
Yes.
We release videos every Saturday, and it's going to be 7 p.m. moving forwards. Obviously, and I'd like to plug Amy as well from Fang Hub. If you want any spiders or any advice, she's definitely someone to speak to. And I'll hand over to Finn.
Yeah, I just want to say on Facebook, the Tarantula community is a fantastic Facebook group as well, which is always helpful for finding information, asking questions. And I've got some of my own photography that I do, which is mainly invert stuff, on exotic.emporium.uk on Instagram. So I'll be posting some more photos that I've been taking recently on there.
Wonderful.
And finally, Amy, have you got anything you want to plug? Have you got anything exciting coming up, or?
I don't think I have anything exciting coming up, but of course the website, fanghubtarantulas.com, and the group on Facebook, which is the Tarantula Community, and this podcast.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Aw, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. And also,
thank you for inviting me.
Oh, it's been brilliant. Dorothy, thank you for arranging it. So
Yeah,
it
was my pleasure.
We have Dorothy to thank. And also, Fang Hub is also on Instagram as well. So if people want to follow over there, go over there and drop a little like. Thank you, everyone, for joining the Invert Podcast this week. Next week, we will be discussing common questions we get asked by people who go, "Oh, you keep spiders?" So if you'd like to join us next week, we'll be talking about the myths and all of those questions. But until next week, it's a bye from me.
All right. Well, I have one last shameless plug.
Oh,
Tarantula.
Tarantula. Sorry, Leah.
Yeah, no, all good. Come check out Tarantula. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and I'm on Facebook, but with my real name. And obviously, Amy, you are amazing. So I will be coming to buy some spiders from you very soon.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. Join us all next week, guys. See you later.
Yeah, see everybody next week.
Bye, guys.